On June the 30th of 2021, the convictions for sexual assault against famous comic actor Bill Cosby were overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and he was released from jail after serving 2 years of a 10-year sentence. Today on Don't Talk TV, I want to take a look at that case and go a bit deeper than the media headlines do to explain why he was released, and to take that opportunity to talk a little bit about the right to silence and the right against self-incrimination, how that works in the United States versus how that works in Canada. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Today I'm going to talk about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decision to overturn the convictions of Bill Cosby. The reason I want to cover this is because it was all over the media. It was a bit of a sensation, one might say, and it's also one where, in my view, the media really did a disservice to the rule of law, and it's a good example of how listening to emotional reactions from celebrities is not the best way to understand what's happened in a case. Even though this case happened in the United States of America, I think looking at it can help us understand how the law in Canada works as well. Both the United States and Canada are common law jurisdictions. We both draw our laws and legal traditions originally from the United Kingdom, and there's many similarities, but a few important differences. As I'll explain, in my view, Bill Cosby could have never been convicted in Canada in the first place. He couldn't have even been prosecuted because of the differences of how the Fifth Amendment, right against self-incrimination in the United States, works versus how Section 13 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canada's right against self-incrimination, works. Let's start by taking a look at this Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decision. Now, I've been accused by some of making boring videos that are akin to watching someone else play a video game when I go through news articles or court cases, but in my view, it's important to go through the actual sources so I can show viewers where I draw my opinions or judgments from, and to show that I'm not just making things up. And I hope that it helps viewers understand the law better by actually going through the law. But I'd be interested in your comments in the comments section below on whether you actually find that helpful, or you would rather I just give my opinions without showing you where that comes from. Here we have the decision. Supreme Court of Pennsylvania decision, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William Henry Cosby Jr. So I'm just going to look at page 2 here. They give a nice summary of the case that already will help you understand where this case, what happened here. So this involves accusations by a young lady, Ms. Constand, against Mr. Cosby, and as it explains before this, there were a number of reasons why the district attorney was concerned that they had a very low likelihood of conviction. So, seeking some measure of justice for Constand, DA Castor decided that the Commonwealth would decline to prosecute Cosby for the incident involving Constand, thereby allowing Cosby to be forced to testify in a subsequent civil action under penalty of perjury without the benefit of his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. Unable to invoke any right not to testify in the civil proceedings, Cosby relied upon the district attorney's declination and proceeded to provide 4 sworn depositions. During those depositions, Cosby made several incriminating statements. District Attorney Castor's successors did not feel bound by his decision and decided to prosecute Cosby notwithstanding that prior undertaking. The fruits of Cosby's reliance upon DA Castor's decision, Cosby's sworn inculpatory testimony, were then used by DA Castor's successors against Cosby at Cosby's criminal trial. We granted allowance of appeal to determine whether DA Castor's decision not to prosecute Cosby in exchange for his testimony must be enforced against the Commonwealth. In a nutshell, the way the Fifth Amendment works in the United States is you can refuse to testify in court. This is where you see people on TV saying, I'm going to take the Fifth. But you can only do that if there's a risk that you'll be prosecuted. So in this case, when the prosecutors declared that they were not going to go after Mr. Cosby, he could not say, I take the Fifth, when put on the stand for civil depositions in relation to Ms. Constand. Therefore, The DA's decision not to prosecute is the only reason why Mr. Cosby made any commentary in those depositions. If not for the DA saying they wouldn't prosecute, he could have just taken the fifth and they would have gotten nothing. Now, as I said, in Canada, this couldn't occur. And I'll just take a quick look at Section 13 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Section 13 says that a witness who testifies in any proceedings has the right not to have any incriminating evidence so given used to incriminate that witness in any other proceedings, except in a prosecution for perjury or for the giving of contradictory evidence. So in Canada, you cannot take the fifth and refuse to testify in court. If you're a subpoenaed witness, you must testify. However, whatever you say under oath in a court proceeding cannot be used against you in another proceeding. So in Mr. Cosby's case, the prosecutors used his sworn testimony in civil court in order to get their conviction in criminal court. In Canadian law, his sworn depositions in civil court would have been inadmissible in a criminal proceeding, and therefore the prosecution would have never occurred the way it did in the United States. So I'm just going to skip down to page 78 of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decision for their conclusion, where they summarize their reasons for overturning his convictions. They said, quote, "We do not question the discretion that is vested in prosecutors over whether charges should be brought in any given case. We do not undermine a prosecutor's general and widely recognized power to conduct criminal litigation and prosecutions on behalf of the Commonwealth and to decide whether and when to prosecute and whether and when to discontinue a case. However, the discretion vested in our Commonwealth's prosecutors, however vast, does not mean that its exercise is free of the constraints of due process. When an unconditional charging decision is made publicly and with the intent to induce action and reliance by the defendant, and when the defendant does so to his detriment, and in some cases upon the advice of counsel, denying the defendant the benefit of that decision is an affront to fundamental fairness, particularly when it results in a criminal prosecution that was foregone for more than a decade." So the reason Mr. Cosby had his charges thrown out is because the prosecutor acted in an abusive manner and in violation of due process. They essentially did a bait and switch on him. They said, "We're not going to prosecute you, so then now you can't use the Fifth Amendment." And once he couldn't use it, then they prosecuted him using what he said. And the only reason he said that was because they had said they would not prosecute. So that's clearly unfair, clearly dirty pool. And in my view, the Supreme Court was absolutely right to throw out those convictions. It doesn't matter what Mr. Cosby is accused of. It doesn't matter whether he was guilty or not. The rule of law demands that due process be followed for the innocent and the guilty alike. And as I've said in many videos before, you want even the most evil people to have benefit of due process so that you will have due process if you're ever required to appear before a court. So in my view, far from demonstrating corruption or misogyny on the part of the court system, this case demonstrates in large part the courts in North America, and I think it's fair to look at Canada and the United States together because our systems are very similar, our cultures are very similar. There is still respect for the rule of law in large part and respect for due process, and this case is an example of that. So I hope from watching this video you'll in fact be reassured by seeing that Mr. Cosby had his convictions overturned. This video is not legal advice. If you're in a situation where you need legal advice, call a lawyer. You can call myself or another lawyer. My 1-855 number and my website are listed below. And a lawyer can give you specific advice tailored to the situation you find yourself in. If you have any suggestions of topics you'd like to see me cover, please leave a comment in the comment section below or email me. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, and following me on social media.